What's up, ballers? Today we're talking about the Replacements. I love the Replacements, so I'm ranking their albums from worst to best. If you agree, disagree, or you have corrections, please put your thoughts in the comments below. We're talking about studio albums and the two official live show albums, plus the 7-inch EP Stink. Bootlegs, singles, and compilations aren't included in this list. I also got a lot of anecdotal information about these records from a documentary film called Color Me Obsessed, which I highly recommend to fans of the Replacements. Link is in the description. Alright, let's get right to it, man. Number 10. The absolute worst Replacements record is the Replacements' sixth studio album, Don't Tell a Soul, which was released in February 1989 to become their best-selling album. Frankly, it's kind of boring, and it's a bit of a disappointment following the work of genius that is pleased to meet me. It seems like commercial success propelled the Replacements into some sort of deadly dance with Sire Records that ultimately spelled doom for the band. The production by Matt Wallace is slick, and he says today he has regrets about how he mixed it. People like the song Achin' to Be. I guess that's the best song on the record. I don't know. There's just 90s synths. The drum beat from U2's Pride in the Name of Love is on one of the songs. When I first heard this record, I immediately discarded it. It was just clear that the band was done, man. Number 9, All Shook Down, was the seventh and final Replacement studio album. Some people would say this was the worst one, but it's really a matter of opinion. They're both pretty terrible. It was released in 1990, and it totally sucks. It wasn't even originally going to be a Replacement record. It was going to be a Paul Westerberg solo effort. So there was a bunch of studio musicians on it, in addition to the Replacements. Drummer Chris Mars brought in some songs he wrote for the record, and they were rejected by Paul immediately, which prompted Chris to depart from the Replacements. He moved on to other creative projects like painting and animation. I'll put a link in the description. It's incredibly cool art, a hell of a lot cooler than this record is. Westerberg should have let Chris Mars songs on there because by this point a lot of his songs were sounding like weaker versions of old Replacement songs. Attitude is the final song, featuring the whole band, the Replacements, minus Bob Stinson, and it shows. Like, there's some cohesion and fun there on that song, but as a whole, this record is really unremarkable. At this point, every other Replacements record is pretty solid. And so we start to get into matters of taste. So I'll generalize here and say that any record by them on Twin Tone Records is a safe bet and is good. But let's continue. Number 8. The Shit Hits the Fans is a low-resolution cassette-only recording filled with false stops and starts released by Twin Tone Records on January 25th, 1985. Despite the low fidelity, it's pretty freaking great. It was a bootleg tape made by a fan in attendance and confiscated by the band's sound guy, and then they listened to it on the way home and were like, this is good, we should release it. So it ends just like where it got grabbed by the sound guy, but of the 24 recorded tracks, only 5 are Replacement songs. The other 19 are covers, which shows you what an amazing and fun cover band they were. You get a real sense of the drunken, funny camaraderie of a Replacement show here, for better or worse. I like to think for better. Small club, fans on board with hijinks and joking, drinks being served. The Shit Hits the Fans was recorded live at the Bowery in Oklahoma City on November 11th, 1984. The J-Cod cover artist by Chris Mars. It's a cultural document of sorts, really, man. Bass player Tommy Stinson once said, there isn't a good live recording of the Replacements. He was almost certainly talking about this tape, but the version of Can't Hardly Wait on here is pretty great. Number 7, Stink, Kids Don't Follow +7, and it really doesn't stink. It's a gritty little EP, and this is one of the times when the band veered closest to the pure high school dropout punk, with 8 short, blazing tunes. None of them are longer than 2.5 minutes long. Fuck School, Goddamn Job, White and Lazy, Stuck in the Middle, Dope Smoking Moron, Gimme Noise, you get the idea. Kids Don't Follow is a classic of the band's catalog, and I would include it on a mixtape of their best songs. White and Lazy dabbles in dirt floor country before exploding into punk. That's one of my favorite ones on this record. It was originally a 7-inch, and Twin Tone Records saved money with a hand-stamped cover when it first came out, and those copies are really pretty rare. The most desirable rare ones have fake UPC codes printed on them with a carved potato. It's been re-released as a 12-inch record by Rhino, and it sounds great. All right, now we're getting to the meat of it here. Number 6, The Replacements for Sale live at Maxwell's is also a live album. It was recorded in February 1986 at a show at one of the band's favorite venues, Maxwell's in Hoboken, New Jersey. It wasn't released until 2017, 31 years later. This was no bootleg. The folks from Sire Records were on hand. The same 24-track mobile studio that captured U2 at Red Rocks for Under a Blood Red Sky recorded this record. The musical performance is pretty solid, particularly Bob's blistering guitar, and we get two solid records of prime live material from the Replacements. It's classic, it's rough, they take risks and thunder forward, I get it. But it still kind of annoys me that there's times when Paul seems to sort of forget or just not sing entire lines, or he changes notes in the vocals to make it something easier to sing or something, and he messes up the vocal melodies. I heard rumors that he sabotaged this. He was trying to mess with Sire Records, so he wasn't doing good performance, and I couldn't find a source for that. It's the best live recording of the band that exists. Bob Stinson is ripping. Heyday is excellent. I Will Dare is excellent. They covered Nowhere Man by the Beatles, and they played Black Diamond by Kiss. But Confident, signed to a major label. They have like 6 albums behind them and 3 years of live shows and touring. If you prefer live mats, this or Shit Hits the Fans might be your pick for number 1, frankly. Number 5. 1985's Tim was produced by Tommy Ramone, who also played the solo on the single Kiss Me on the Bus. Tommy Ramone insisted that the band work and not just party. This was the first major label record, and it brought them out of the basement, so to speak. For some diehards, and perhaps for lead guitarist Bob Stinson as well, this was the beginning of the end. He didn't like the major studio switch, and he only showed up for one day to record his solos, and that's why Tommy Ramone played the solo on Kiss Me on the Bus. It was like Bob hated the song and couldn't make his solo work for it. Kiss Me on the Bus was a kind of commercial single, but it was a wonderful teenage love song and a damn great tune. Bastards of Young is a freaking classic misfit anthem of unity. I mean, I love that. Here Comes a Regular, this heartbreaking song about drunks in a bar. George Wendt from Cheers wistfully posits that perhaps his Norm character could have inspired a lyric from that song. And apparently Tim is Timothy Petrosky of the band Duck Kicking Vulture. He's the namesake of the record. I won't recap the entire story here because it's much more interesting to hear Timothy tell it, which he does in that Color Me Obsessed documentary, so check that out. Bob Stinson was actually kicked out of the band in 1986, making Tim the last Replacements record that he ever played on. Sad. Let's get to it. We're getting to the end of the list. Number 4, Hootenanny, is a key album, man. It bridges the origins of the band and where it was eventually going to go. We started with the title track, a bluesy lark that plods along cheerfully and goofily and a bit drunkenly. But then we hit Run It and You Lose. We get hard, classic, fast tunes that could have been on their first record or Stink. Color Me Impressed and Within Your Reach are standouts here, giving us a glimpse of what was coming on Let It Be. Coherent, well-written, innovative songs with unique new sounds. Take Me Down to the Hospital is a crazy, sexy, goofy fan favorite. I remember a lot of people yelling for that at the show I went to. We get the gritty, acoustic, drunken Treatment Bound, the confused cover song Mr. Whirly, which mashes together the Beatles' Oh Darling and the Twist by Chubby Checker, and we get the shining instrumental Buck Hill, which kind of reminds me of early Joe Jack Talcum from the Dead Milkmen with his instrumental tracks for them, or that song by Shadowy Men on a Shadowy Planet they did for Kids in the Hall. There's a lot of variety here, man, and a lot of quality. Hootenanny is an excellent record. Number 3 on our list is Let It Be, which could have been number 1, honestly. It was sort of a breakthrough for the band. The best track here, in my opinion, is Unsatisfied, which was one of Paul's best written, most openly raw, emotional songs, and probably the replacement song most likely to get randomly stuck in my head or make me cry at 2 a.m. I Will Dare and Favorite Thing show a maturity and poppy coherence that was catchy as hell and presaged a lot of alternative pop music to follow it. We're Coming Out is a bit harder rocking, calls to the earlier days. It's pretty refreshing here. And the piano and vocal-only track Androgynous is, for its time, a tender and forward-looking message of tolerance for genderqueerness and unisex evolution. This record has a lot of great songs, man. It has flashes of pure genius, interrupted by a couple of jokey ones and a crappy Kiss cover song called Black Diamond. It doesn't really do it for me. I forgive you guys for that one, though, man. Those interruptions are really the only reason that this isn't ranked as number one. Oh, yeah, they had the balls to name it after a Beatles album, which was unthinkable to record execs at the time. And it has the best album cover, I think, which encouraged teenaged me to wear Chuck Taylors and flannel shirts all the time. They looked so cool on the cover there. Look how cool they look. All right, let's go to number two. I know this might be an outrage to some of the old school heads, but I'm slotting the blues-drenched Pleased to Meet Me from 1987 as number two. I was actually tempted to slot this as number one, perhaps because it was the first Replacements record I ever heard, and it was the first concert I ever went to, and it was the first record I ever gave to a girl. The cover is what it suggests, the band's awareness of and snarky comment about total capitulation to a major label demands. Guitarist Slim Dunlap joined, and in my opinion, he kicks ass on this record, man. It's an incredibly well-written group of songs, executed perfectly, well-produced, with Paul in top vocal form, and his songwriting at its peak. There's a lot of variety of different types of energy, not a lot of messing around here. The arrangements are phenomenal. Horns, strings. Can't Hardly Wait is one of the best songs I ever did and has an awesome horn part. Nightclub Jinners is a smoky jazz club vibe with a low-key sax solo. Valentine, Skyway, so many songs, so good. It's an absolutely beautiful record without a bad song on it. Pleased to Meet Me. All right, here's number one. The best album by the Replacements is Sorry Martha, About to Take Out the Trash. It was the first album the band released in 1981 on Twin Tone Records, and it's one of my favorite albums by anyone ever. 18 blazing songs, many lightning fast, and from the opening chords of Taking a Ride, it's basically perfect. It's like you're racing around town with these teenage maniacs, and they're a little on edge and dangerous, but you can relate to them, and you're pumped that you're hanging out with them, slamming from song to song, picking up cigarettes at the convenience store, getting some beers. I've heard it called the punk Sgt. Pepper. Paul's vocals and solid songwriting, Bob Stinson's searing guitar solos, Tommy's bass lines, and Chris's rocking unstoppable drums, man, they really brought it on this record. It's amazing they were so young. The song lyrics are rock and roll, often funny punk poetry or something. It's hard to describe the style. It's not quite punk. There's too much rock in there. And then you flip the record and it opens up side two with the heartbreaking Johnny's Gonna Die, and one of your new gang is dead on the street. All these songs blaze with a powerful, defiant young emotion, and it's sort of breathtaking. Even now, it's incredibly listenable and contains some of the band's very best performances. I guess this record is one of those moments of magic an artist can spend a lifetime either trying to create or recreate. Now, I've picked up the Rhino releases of most of these records, and I highly recommend them, man. I've owned these on cassette, CD, and these new pressings on vinyl by Rhino sound the absolute best. If you dug this video, click subscribe and check out this one where I talked about the Beatles with Joe Jack Talcum.